Hey, good morning, everybody. John Millen with Benefit Hackers. Hey, another update from my training yesterday with Tony Robbins, and he talks about the 3 choices of service. This is fascinating for any entrepreneur, business owner, executive. I think this is so cool. I'm going to keep this short, but he talks about the artist, the leader, and the entrepreneur. And the context is that we all have different characteristics about us, different identities, and sometimes those identities will hold us back. And the scenario, let me set it up. So he had from the audience, if you've seen Tony Robbins, he walks into the audience and he takes people and asks them questions. So this lady stood up, and she was a doctor from Columbia. And he said, okay, tell me who you are. She said, I'm such and such. I'm a doctor from Columbia. And he said, okay, what's your biggest chokehold for your business? And she said that she can't find good people. And he said, okay, why not? And she said, because no one can do it like I can. And he said, so you're the artist. And that's when he started to explain the first type of service. The first identity is one, the artist, or also called the producer, or you have talent. And he said, well, you will never be able to grow your business or your enterprise or your mission or whatever it is you're trying to do. In this case, she was a physician, right? Helping people. You will never be able to achieve that because you are stuck in the artist identity. And the artist identity, no one can ever do it better than them. And your business cannot grow because of that. And it was so to the point. You're like, holy crap. And he doesn't do it to be me. If the context is he's doing it to help people. He's there to get people to realize. And the dude's got serious success. He's got multiple companies, been around for 40 years. The companies he owns, they do $6 billion a year in sales from all different industries. So he's not just a motivational guy. He's trying to help people, and he actually practices what he preaches. And so it was fascinating to watch as he continued to ask her questions. And he said, why don't you hire somebody? And she said, well, no one can do it like I can do it. And he said, well, your identity is the artist. You're doing your thing, which is medicine. You need to go find a manager. That's the second type of identity. So a manager / leader. And, we're all listening like, okay. And he said that person likes to have process and order and systems. That's a different identity than you, the artist. You have the talent, but that person that you needs to set up the process and the systems that allow you to not be stressed out for your entire life and think you have to do it all, because you eventually will burn out. He said the artist, which you are as the physician, you have the talent, and you go where the flow is, and that's your skill. But you really need the second type of identity, which is someone that's more of a leader or a manager to help you in that business. And he said the third identity is something called the entrepreneur. And he said the entrepreneur is all about risk taking. That's what gets them excited, is taking risks. And he said, most of you in the room probably think you're an entrepreneur, but you're not. You're entrepreneurial, but you're not an entrepreneur. And I think about myself, like, I don't like to take risks. That's not exciting for me. I do things that are out of my comfort zone, like a podcast, but I don't purposely like to take risk. He said, there's a difference between being entrepreneurial and being an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the identity, the risk taker. And he said, the organization that you're in, or the business that you own, or the thing that you do, might have 3 different identities. And what he said was fascinating. He said, he gave an example of a session he was doing with a woman that had been abused, and all these horrible things happened to her. And he's talking to her live in the set, not in our session, in another session. And it was really intense, like really serious stuff. And if you can imagine the people that stood up, there were 5,000 people in the room, and we're all like compassionate, like feeling for people when they open up about themselves, because we're all kind of feeling it ourselves. So it is a safe environment, but it's extremely vulnerable for that person. Extremely. I mean, imagine in front of 5,000 people, and you're probably being videotaped and recorded. So he explains this scenario where he goes through and he helps a lady. He goes backstage after the break or afterwards, and there weren't supposed to be any cameras, and somehow a camera got back, and he started breaking down crying. And he explained that in the moment in the session, he had to be the artist. He had to do his talent. He couldn't get emotionally wrapped up in her story and take on that identity. The identity he needed in the moment was the artist. He needed to help that person and not take it on personally, because he would have been ineffective. And his message was that he brought up another lady. Her name was it was like Cynthia Jones, or it was like a 2-word first name. Cindy Lynn or something like that. Her first name was two names, right? Like hyphenated. And he started talking to her, and she's got this big smile and like easy going, and she's a business owner, and he starts talking to her, and it's really quickly after you get the framework, like she's not the manager leader, she was the artist, and she had the same issue, and she wasn't an entrepreneur because she didn't like risk. And so he said, who's the woman that just needs to take charge and make something happen? What would you call her? And she thought, and she said, CJ. He's like, okay, what would CJ do as the leader of your company if you had to make a tough decision? How would she? And he made her walk like that, and it was fascinating. And what would she say? And what would she look like? And and so she kind of put her hands on her hips, like a more of a stronger pose, but she was very friendly looking. So you could tell her identity changed in a very subtle way. And his point was, in business, in life, in your organization, whatever you do, sometimes you have to take on these different identities and become that artist at some point, that leader at other points, and maybe that entrepreneur taking on that risk that's scary as hell at other points. And it was so eye-opening to see that. It was like we were given permission to have multiple personality disorder, sort of, not making light of that, but it's kind of like he said it's okay for CJ to come out. Like if you need to fire somebody, Cynthia Lee or Cynthia Jones, the artist, is not going to want to do it. But CJ, the manager, is going to have to do it. Or if you need to go into a different direction of your business, she was in the auto parts, she was helping auto repair stores. Like she went into auto repair businesses and helped them. And he explained, look, that life cycle is not a new life. I mean, it's coming down the tail end for a number of reasons. And he said, so you may need to be the entrepreneur, CJ, to take risks, to move into a new area that's scary as hell. And so I thought that was worthy of sharing with you guys. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the takeaway that I took is that maybe in your life, I don't know, definitely in your business, but it's okay to have these different identities that you take on, not being joking about it, but mentally. He was kind of saying to her, who is this person you need to be? And she said, CJ. He said, all right, so I need you to invoke CJ right now because you got to fire somebody. And I know you're sad and you're upset and you feel bad, but the leader of the company has to do this. And that person in your head is CJ. And that's the person that needs to do it. And I think we all struggle a little bit probably with those roles at times. And I thought that was an extremely eye-opening segment. So hope this is helpful. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. We'll talk soon.